So first, I have a question for you. Are you
Yeah.
also doing? Are you also gearing us to doing your CBAT, your Certified Business Analyst profession?
Yeah, pretty much even that will also is going to be covered.
Okay. And who's the give me a second. Who's the resource do I contact on Monday?
You can reach out, or I'll give you a couple of my associates. They'll help you.
Okay.
I'm sorry. What is your name? I'm sorry, I did not get your name.
My name?
Uh-huh.
It's Keith, Keith.
Okay.
And I also have another question is, I'll talk to the resources.
Probably after the session we can have a quick call.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much.
All right. Just message me your number, and I'll call you.
Yeah. It's yet loading. I'm at 27%. It's preparing my meeting.
Oh, okay. No problem. All right. Let's get started.
If you can wait till it loads, I would be grateful.
I think you will not miss much. I'm not going to start writing much, at least for the next 5 minutes. So just please pay attention to what I'm talking about.
Okay.
All right, folks. So as we already, had an introduction session, the training that you are going to go through is the business analyst training. And just to summarize, what is the role of a business analyst? A business analyst basically is responsible for interacting with the business users, document the requirements, and translate them into detailed documentation. And pretty much the role of a business analyst is to interact, act as a mediator, and pretty much to become a business analyst, as I already said. Most importantly, you would need good communication. So these are, and also good writing skills. Pretty much these are mandatory skills required for anybody to become a business analyst. And there is no need to have any technology or technical background. Okay? So with that
Hello, Sabash.
Yes.
Sabash.
Yeah.
What do you have on your screen? Is it the software development methodologies?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. So with that being said, now the role that I'm going to prepare you for is business analyst in the IT industry. So you will be, once the training is complete, the assumption is that we will be helping you work in the IT industry, information technology industry as a business analyst. Now, as I said, the training program, assuming that most of you do not have any technology background, it's going to be 80-20 model. So 20% of the whole program is inclined towards teaching you the basics, and the remaining 80% is going to be live project training. So what we do is we take up a project and we make you work on the project from a BA perspective. So any and everything that you may end up deliver as a BA, we are going to have a hands-on practice and training session in the class. All right?
Will you be giving us a soft copy? I'm sorry, Subhash, this is Keith. Will you be giving us a soft copy of the course material?
I will. I'm not sure how many of you have seen the blog. At the end of the session, whoever is, I'm assuming that at least 3 to 4 people are joining for the first time. So at the end of the session, I'm going to share you, and show you our training blog through which we, interact with the students, and probably that will give you a better picture. Okay. All right. And also, as I said, all the training sessions are recorded, and we do have video recordings of every class, that we share with you.
Suresh, I have another question, and I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's fine.
Are you working on any projects in the U.S.? Are you training from the U.S.?
Yeah, I'm in New Jersey. I'm in New Jersey.
Okay, great.
I'm in New Jersey. I think if I share one of the demo video I will be able to answer all your questions one-on-one. But let's get started with today's session without any further delay. So, as I said, the goal is to get into the IT industry and start working as a business analyst. But as we already know, the objective of the IT industry or implementing IT projects is to have a software developed. Right? End of the day, when the whole technology team, the business users, they want to develop a software. Right? Now, before we understand what are the roles and responsibilities of a BA in the industry, we need to understand how a software is developed. What are the different methods in the IT industry that are used in the process of implementing a software solution. What are the methods? What is the process? Because, if you want to work in the IT industry, the first thing, the basic should be very clear, right? And here I'm referring to software development methodology. So in the process of implementing software, there are certain set of techniques and methods that are used in the IT industry. I'm going to, of course, there are so many, several set of methodologies. I'm going to list some of them, and whatever is relevant and important for us for our discussion, we are going to cover all of them. Right? So some of the most sought software development methodologies to start with: traditional SDLC, which is traditional software development lifecycle. Followed by waterfall methodology or waterfall model. We also have RUP model. RUP stands for Rational Unified Process. This is also called as IBM RUP, because IBM has actually proposed this theory. And we also have Agile. Agile is one type of software development methodology, and under Agile, again, we have several set of methods, software development methods, but primarily we will on Scrum model. Ladies and gentlemen on the phone, I request all of you to mute your phones. If you're using a phone, please mute your phone. If you're using a headset, please mute your headset, so that we can continue this session without any disturbance. Thank you. So I've listed some of the software development methodologies here. So to start with, on the top, traditional software development life cycle is also called as SDLC. SDLC refers to software development life cycle. Waterfall model, IBM RUP model, Agile model, and in Agile we have Scrum. All right. So before we deep dive into these concepts, why do we need to, in the process of developing a software, why do we actually need these methods? If we know what we have to implement, why do we need to follow a methodology? Why do we need to follow a process is the question.
I think any development process, you have to have something standard so that, it's easy for one person to take over from wherever the other person left. And otherwise, it would be too much of a transitional problem.
So, when the concept of software development started 30, 40 years back, there was no process, there was no model, there was no standard. And out of every 100 projects that were initiated, software development projects that were initiated, 6% of them failed. Okay, so when I say failed, some of the projects were completed, and after completion, the client realized that that's not what they want. The software has been developed based on what the client has asked, but after looking at the software, after start to interact with the software solution, the clients realized that this is of no use because that's not what they want. However, the analysis and identification of what they want should have been done on day one. So without properly identifying what is required, without proper planning, without identifying what you need, what is important from a perspective, they used to start the development, and eventually, even if it is a successful implementation, what's the use if nobody is using it? Right? And also, there were so many projects which were initiated, and due to technical issues, technical implementation issues, there are a lot of projects which were pretty much around 70 to 80% complete, and eventually, after 80% completion, projects were on hold because the technology team has hit a roadblock, and they realize that the technical solution that they have chosen doesn't make sense and doesn't lead them anywhere. But this analysis should have been done on day one, not after you finish 80% of the implementation. And there were so many projects which were halted because of budget issues. Even that happens today also because people don't follow the process, right? Budget issues. When you know that a project will take $1 million, and when you don't have the budget, why would you even start the project? Why would you not forecast how much money is required? Why wouldn't you plan the resources? Right? So all these were some of the basic issues which were the root causes of so many projects being failed. Right? And everybody started thinking that there should be some standards, some set of standards that we need to follow, rather than just having a software developed. And eventually, a lot of organizations started recommending theories. A lot of theories came up, and people started recommending process. Organizations, so many organizations came forward and started recommending the process. What needs to be done, how it needs to be done in order to be successful. Right? So many theories came up, out of which some of them are very popular because once you start implementing your solution based on those theories, things were successful. So out of those so many theories, I'm going to discuss few of them here, which I have listed here on the screen. And first of all, what is a software development methodology? A software development methodology is a systematic and organized method, and it recommends an organized and systematic approach towards software development. I repeat, a software development life cycle or methodology recommends an organized and systematic approach towards software development. Right? So with that being said, as I already listed all these methodologies, what I'm going to do is I'm going to deep dive into the traditional software development lifecycle, and we'll discuss what happens in the SDLC, and we'll deep dive into the whole concept. Now this concept is going to take a lot of time, but remember, if you are well versed with this model, the traditional SDLC, I think the rest of the models will fall in line. So it's very important that you understand the traditional software development lifecycle. Okay? Any questions, folks?
Most of these methods would have a similar or same step.
Most of these methods will have similar or same steps. There is a little bit deviation. We'll talk about it once we get there. Right? Okay, so to start with the traditional software development life cycle. Now, in the process of implementing software using the traditional SDLC, there are certain set of methods and phases that you need to know. So to start with, planning and analysis. To start with, planning and analysis phase, requirements gathering, design, development, testing, followed by implementation or go live, and production support. I repeat, in the process of implementing the software solution using the traditional software development life cycle, some of the steps or some of the phases involved are planning and analysis phase, requirements gathering phase, design, development, testing, followed by implementation or go live and production support. All right. So, folks, before I deep dive into these concepts, at any point, if you have any question, if my conversation is not making any sense to you, you are free to stop me and ask me questions related to the topic. All right. Now, as you see here, planning and analysis phase is the very first phase. Now, the purpose of breaking this whole software implementation into different phases is to accomplish something, right? We want to break down the whole set of activities, into individual phases or steps, and we want to accomplish the, the whole process of developing software in step-by-step manner, right? And the purpose of implementing a phase is to pretty much identify certain set of milestones. Every phase will have some output, right? I mean, there is no reason why I would implement a phase without having a proper well-defined output. So every phase here that I've listed will have certain set of milestones. What I'm going to do is I'm going to I'm going to briefly describe each and every phase, the purpose of each and every phase, then the milestones accomplished in each and every phase, and who are the people working on that particular phase, and what is the role of a business analyst in that phase. Pretty much, we'll deep dive and we'll discuss all these details. Okay. So to start with, planning and analysis phase. Some of the milestones accomplished in the planning and analysis phase include scope and vision, followed by feasibility analysis, risk analysis and mitigation plan, scope and vision, feasibility analysis, risk analysis and mitigation plan, budget plan, project plan, or project charter, whatever it is. I repeat, some of the milestones accomplished in the planning and analysis phase includes the scope and vision, feasibility analysis, risk analysis and mitigation plan, budget plan, and project plan. All right. What happens in planning and analysis phase? The purpose of planning and analysis phase primarily is to understand, identify what is the business process that needs to be automated. So here, we want to develop a software, right? Now, what do you mean by developing a software? It's nothing but you're identifying a business process and you're actually developing a software solution, right? For example, if you want to develop an online application for generating an insurance quote, right? Rather than the customer walking into the insurance company's office, you're actually creating a website where the customer can interact, and get a quote, right? So offering a quote to a customer is a business process, right? And what we're trying to do is we're trying to develop a software solution with which this process can be automated. End of the day, software development is pretty much nothing but identifying the business process and automating the business process, right? So the first thing that is done in the planning and analysis phase is to identify the business process, and the first milestone that you see here, the scope and vision. A scope and vision document is the very first milestone accomplished as part of your planning and analysis phase. So in the scope and vision document, we identify what is required. We identify the business process that needs to be automated. What are the different business processes, list of all the business processes that we want to accomplish and set up for automation. So here the question is, why do we need to document this? I mean, why do we need to identify the scope, or why do we need to define the scope? Pretty much scope and vision is nothing but identifying the scope and defining the scope, right? Why do we need to define the scope? Why do we need to draw a boundary saying that, okay, these are the business process and this is what I'm going to automate? Why do we need to do it? Okay, so to make sure we don't deviate from it and to make sure we are on plan. That is correct. A scope and vision document gives a clear picture, and it makes sure that we are focused on particular action items, and we do not deviate from our actual plan. And also, a scope and vision gives a clear picture to the end users saying that, okay, this is what you have asked for and this is what you're going to get at the end of the day. And also, as part of the scope definition, we also document what is in scope and we also document what is out of scope. Now, the question is, why are we talking about something which we are not going to deliver? I just said that we will also document what is out of scope. Why should we do it?
Maybe that could be a future project.
It could be a future project, but
at least the customer knows that they are not going to.
But from the client perspective, we need to make sure that all the assumptions are ruled out. Just to make a simple, I'll take a very simple example. For example, if the scope of the project is to develop a web-based banking site, portal, website, banking site, right? In which the scope is to have funds transfer feature. Okay? So one of the functionality is transferring funds. This is in scope. Okay? Now, with this one statement saying that funds transfer is in scope, I can make three assumptions out of this. Okay? Assumption number one, using funds transfer, the client should be able to transfer funds within his accounts, which is internal transfer, right? The clients should be able to transfer funds outside the bank, which is external transfer, and the client should be able to transfer funds outside the country, which is international transfer. Right? These are some of the assumptions that I can make out of that one statement which says funds transfer in scope. But however, if international transfers are not in scope, we need to make it very clear saying that the customers, as part of this project, international funds transfer is not included. We want to make it very clear. Of course, I mean, people may assume so many things. If, let us say, if external transfers are out of scope, we need to make it very clear, and rule out all the assumptions. Let's make sure people are not assuming things. Just because I've made a statement here, people can draw 10 assumptions. So if there is a possibility that, there could be some assumptions driven out of the scope context, we need to make sure that we, rule out those assumptions. Right? So pretty much the scope and vision document will clearly outline what is required, and also it will define and outline the business process that needs to be automated and clearly outlines what is in scope and what is out of scope.
My question is, how much time or how many hours should this planning and analysis step take? Because in my mind, I think that's a very, very time-consuming step.
Correct.
Because you have to lay out all the processes, and then you have to choose which process you are going to, or the client has to choose which process they want to automate at this point of time in this project.
Correct. Okay. Your question is, what is the duration or how much time is normally spent on planning and analysis?
That is correct.
I cannot give you a well-defined answer for it because it purely depends on what the project is, how complex the business process are, and it also depends on the organization also. Every entity or every organization in the process of developing software have their own set of goals, quarterly goals, annual goals. So depending on what they want, how they want to accomplish, it could be also driven based on their organization standards as well, their milestones, their roadmap. There are several factors which derive or which drive the time factor.
And a business analyst is involved in this stage also?
Yes. A business analyst is definitely involved in this stage. We'll talk about that in a moment. Any questions? Okay. All right. So just to answer your question, scope and vision document. First of all, as I said, in the scope and vision, we identify and we document the business process. All right. Now, question number one: who identifies the business process?
Hey, Subhash. Excuse me. Sorry, this is Keith. The call dropped. Can you explain that example again for me? You were explaining about the scope and how we define a scope in a project in the financial industry.
I was just talking about transfer.
So if the call.
So if the scope is to develop a banking site,
right?
And one of the action item, item in the scope is transfer funds, right? So just because I have a funds transfer in scope, there are three assumptions that I could make. One is the client having the capability of internal transfer. I mean to say transferring funds within his account or outside the bank, which is external or international, right? And if the international transfers are not in scope, you want to make sure that you elaborate it and you define it clearly, saying that international transfer is not in scope.
So basically the scope is what the project is going to achieve.
Correct. We are going to clearly outline and define the boundary of the business process.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
Okay. Now, coming back to the question, scope and vision. Who defines the scope, or who identifies the business process? Who is responsible for defining this business process, identifying this business process?
Is it the line of business?
Correct. It's the line of business or business stakeholders. Every organization will have stakeholders, business users, right? And they are responsible for defining the business process, identifying the business process that needs to be automated. For example, let's say if you're talking about developing an employee portal, where a staffing company needs a web portal to manage, the whole employees, right? So what are the features that are required in this employee portal has to be decided by the organization, right? And internally, there could be some expert in accounts who is going to identify the business process associated with accounts, and he's going to dictate what goes in accounts. There may be some other person, who is managing the, resources, the list of resources, the database of resource, and he's responsible for being the stakeholder dictating what is required. Maybe another person is responsible for managing the timesheets, and they will outline, what is the requirement from the timesheet management perspective. So in this way, depending on the organization, every entity will have a line of business and or the stakeholders. Stakeholders is nothing but business users. Right? So the stakeholders will identify the business process that needs to be automated in the scope and vision. Right? What is the role of a business analyst? A business analyst is responsible for interacting with the business users, understanding the scope, and documenting the scope. So here, as a business analyst, your role is limited only in the process of documentation. You will not be responsible for identifying, or you will not be responsible for dictating the process. All you would do as a business analyst is to interact with the business users, document the information, and make sure that they are clear with what they want. All right. Now moving on to so once you as a business analyst, you may be interacting with the stakeholders and setting up meetings and identifying these scope, what is in scope, what is out of scope, and pretty much documenting them. And once the stakeholders review the scope and vision, once they agree and approve on the scope and vision, then they officially sign off saying that, okay, this is what we want. These are the business process. This is exactly what we are looking for. Okay. Now, once the scope and vision is clearly defined, then the next thing is feasibility analysis or feasibility study. Feasibility study is basically all about studying how feasible is the business process, how feasible is our scope. So we have decided that we will go ahead and implement these 10 business processes. But from the returns perspective, from the market perspective, from the budget perspective, is it really making sense? Is it really worth spending? Is it really feasible to implement? Assuming that it's going to cost X amount of dollars, is it really going to make sense? Is it feasible? Is it worth it? Is it worth spending $1 million? Is it worth spending 50 resources and 2 years of time on this project? Is it really feasible? And even if you do it, after the outcome, once we get the outcome, is it really making sense? Is it really worth it or not? So all this analysis is part of your feasibility study. And as part of feasibility study, we perform one analysis which is called as SWOT analysis. SWOT. S for strength, W for weakness, O for opportunity, and T for threat. So as part of this SWOT analysis, of the feasibility analysis or feasibility study, we also perform SWOT analysis, which is identifying the strengths. So based on the business process that we have identified in the scope, what are the strengths? How strong is the business process? What are the weakness areas? Are there any potential set of weakness that could hamper our application process? What are the opportunities? Assuming that this business process is going to be unique and different, what are the different opportunities that we have in the market, with the branding that the company has, how is this product, the software that we are going to bring to the market, how is it going to add value? What are the potential opportunities we have in the market? For example, Apple. Every time they launch a new product, they already have a branding. Apple already has a branding. They don't have to really, go advertise like crazy, right? So there are potential set of opportunities in the market, right? Threats, T for threats. Who are the competitors? Who are the competitors who are also working on similar lines of products? How successful can we be? How is the competition going to be in the market once we launch this product? Once we launch this software, right? Apple, Android, pretty much, both of them have cutthroat competition in the market, and each of them try to outsmart each other by coming up with some unique and innovative products. So all this analysis pretty much is performed in every software development life cycle as part of your feasibility analysis or feasibility study. Any questions?
Who is responsible for feasibility analysis, the client or the BA?
A business analyst will not be involved in the feasibility study because from the business process perspective, this analysis should be done by the stakeholders. Stakeholders or the line of business, whoever is the expert in the process. Now here, the role of the business analyst may be limited again in documentation. Maybe you will be interacting with them, they'll be dictating, stuff to you, and probably you will be just responsible for putting everything together in a document.
Right, like, we can ask, okay, has what's being done? And they might say yes, and these are the outcomes.
Right. So it depends on, and again,
you have to take their word.
Correct. So the thing is, the document that I'm talking about here, every organization will have a standard template, a format of documenting all this information. Right? And normally, whenever anybody documents, these documents, they will pick up those templates and they'll start filling information. I'm going to show you some of the sample templates as well eventually for you to understand. Any questions so far, folks? All right. Moving on to the next part, risk analysis and mitigation plan. Now, risk analysis is pretty much part of our SWOT analysis study. So here, as part of risk analysis, we go ahead and we perform and analyze all the potential set of risks involved in this implementation. What are the different risks involved? How do we, eliminate or how do we minimize these risks? Assuming that, okay, fine, our project is feasible in terms of implementation, what are the potential set of risks that this project may undergo, right? And how do we eliminate those risks? If we cannot eliminate those risks, how do we mitigate, at least minimize? If we know that there may be a damage, obviously the first goal is to eliminate the damage or at least minimize the damage. So how can we go about it? Again, all these steps in terms of the risk analysis or process is again performed by the stakeholders. And as a business analyst, you will not be involved in this, or your role may be limited to documentation and assisting them understand with the analysis. All right. Assuming that the scope and vision is agreed and the feasibility analysis and risk analysis is complete, the next part is the budget plan. Who prepares the budget plan? Who prepares the budget plan, and what are the different steps involved in budget plan, and how does the budget planning are based on? So I think all these are some things, for some factors that you need to be aware of. Budget planning. I'm sorry.
Could it be the project manager?
Correct. The budget plan is prepared by the project manager implementing the project. I repeat, the budget plan is prepared by the project manager who is leading the technology team. All right. Now, how does the project manager come up with these budget plan and estimates? How do you think, question to all of you, is based on based on what does the project manager come up with the estimate of these budgets?
Doesn't the client already give you like in how much money they want the project to be done? So depending on that, the project manager will be able to figure out how much money to put into each phase, right?
That is one scenario that may happen.
Okay.
That is one scenario, but there are several other as well.
It also
Yeah, go ahead.
It also depends upon the scope of the project.
Correct, exactly. That's primary thing. The budget plan is always driven based on the scope and vision, right? The client will not decide, the budget without having the evaluation of the scope and vision.
I think one of the points is project manager defines how many resources needs to be allocated for the project.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that.
Okay.
So from the process perspective, what may happen, as soon as the scope and vision is reviewed and approved, the scope and vision is shared to the technology project manager, and the project manager, by looking at the volume of work, he's going to estimate the budget, right? So the initial estimate prepared by the project manager is called as L0 estimate. L0. I repeat, by looking at the scope and vision, the project manager will be preparing a budget plan. A budget plan here, the first budget plan prepared by the project manager is called as L for Larry, L0 estimate. L0 estimate is basically a high-level estimate. It's a high-level ballpark number as of, these are the 10 items that you have asked, and probably we may need, around a million, 1.1 million in order to get this project implemented. So kind of a high-level estimate. Okay. Now, what may happen is, once this high-level estimate is shared to the business users, because they have to, put the money from their pocket, right? So what happens is, once the L0 estimate is shared with the business users, they may go back and they may come back and they say, I think you're asking for too much. 1 million is a lot of money, and we don't think this project should actually cost $1 million. Can you give us a breakup? Give us a breakup. We want details. We want to understand why this project will cost us $1 million. Right? And what happens is, again, the project manager will go back and start, deep diving into the details, and he will come up with another estimate, which is called as L1 estimate. L for Larry, L1 estimate. L1 estimate is basically a high-level estimate. I'm sorry, low-level estimate, and pretty much it will clearly give you the details of what information, what are the tasks, what are the scope, what are the resources, how many people are required, from the technology perspective, from the software, hardware, the number of people, everything, the licenses, the whole 9 yards required for this implementation will be documented in the L1 estimate.
So basically L1 estimate is a line item estimate.
L1 estimate is kind of a line item estimate. What happens is once this estimate, L1 estimate is shared with the business users, they may look at it and probably they may not be happy because, there's too much money involved, right? They may come back and they may say, you know what, I don't think we can, we understand that you have given us a breakup, but I don't think we can spend that much money. We don't have that much money for this year. Can you make some adjustments? Can you get it done in for example, if the manager is quoting $1 million, they may come back and they say, can you get it done in 700, 800? Okay. So again, the concept of the bargaining is again pretty much part of this industry as well. Okay. So there are back and forth discussions between the business users and the technology team, and until both the parties come to an agreement, as of what can be spent and what is enough, until both of them get to an understanding, things will not move forward from here. And let me tell you this. Every year, there are at least 30 to 40% of the projects which do not see the daylight because, the business and technology don't come to an agreement. At least 30%. All right. And also, there are a couple of other options that may happen as well. The technology team, let us say if the business users think that, they don't have the money to spend, there are a couple of things that they may do. Number one, they may go back to the, the higher approving authority and, show them the actual estimate, show them the work involved, show them the estimate, and push the upper management for more money. If we need money to get it done, if this is mandatory, then yeah, it has to be done, right? So if as a stakeholder, if I cannot approve more than 1 million, and if the project needs or demands more than $1 million, then I have to go to my higher authority, show him, the justification, the business justification, prove that, this is going to make sense, and get the additional required budget approved. That is one option. Option number two is, let us say if there are 10 items in the scope, and there is no way that you can get approval for this budget. What you do is, probably you'll go back and you'll cut down your scope, right? You cut down the scope. Let us say if there are 10 action items, then probably the business users may de-scope a couple of items so that, the volume of work is reduced and also the money can be handled. So these are all different things that could happen in the IT industry. Initially, when the concept, when financial companies started implementing software solutions, they used to outsource this whole software development. So these days, every company, every organization has their own software development center. But initially, 20, 30 years back, none of them had any customized software development because nobody really cared about it, right? So there were some big consulting companies, software consulting companies like IBM, Wipro, Infosys, Satyam. These were some, big shots in the, in this industry who used to help these clients build their software. So the same process that happens between the stakeholder and the technology manager, was pretty much leveraged to any software consulting vendor. So let us say Bank of America wants to develop a website for themselves. Probably they'll go ahead and they will publish their scope to like 3 to 4 different vendors. Like for example, this is the quotation, the scope is shared to Wipro, Infosys, and Satyam, let us say, Satyam or IBM, right? So they say, this is the volume of work involved and this is what we want you to do. Now you come back and tell us how much can you get this done. What is that you're asking for, right? Give me a quote. So what happens is when these companies come back with quotes, then again, they look at various factors, right? The service level agreements, they look at the pricing. So several factors, the support. So there are a lot of factors that come into picture, and once they agree, once they find the best guy, best company, whoever quotes the least and whoever gives the best service, they'll offer the project to them. And again, this contract between the client and the software development company, there could be a lot of things that could be included as part of the contract. For example, it could say that you have to get this done in 1 million. We are not going to spend even a dollar more than that, right? And you have to deliver the software to us, with the least number of defects by end of this year. And if you do not deliver this on time, then you have to pay a penalty. We are going to chop off 20% of the price. So all these are factors, which are put in the contract. Clearly, both the parties have to agree based on the terms and conditions, and that's when the next step starts. Okay, the question is, what is the role of a business analyst in budget planning? I don't think a business analyst plays any role at all in the budget plan. It is the role of a project manager. Pretty much the project manager will drive the budget plan. You will not be involved in budget planning at all. Okay, but however, if you end up, because this is a critical item and you need a lot of skill, a lot of experience and expertise from a management perspective in order to prepare this budget plan. And unless and until you end up working in a client place for like around 5 to 7 years, they don't trust you. They don't let you drive this budget plan. Or you are already a seasoned, project manager who has been doing it. Unless until that is the case, you will not end up working on any budget plan. Questions?
Subhash.
Yeah.
Are we going to have the things that you explained? Are we going to have it on the black, or do we have to take pictures or save it ourselves?
You don't have to worry about writing these notes down. I'm going to post this on the blog.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the question that I have here is, what percentage of the projects are outsourced? I don't know. It depends. It still happens. Outsourcing still happens. For example, when I used to work with this bank, some of the projects, they started setting up their software development centers back in India. For example, Citibank, right? Last year, they have set up a big center, development center, software development center. Citibank never had any software development centers back in India. All the offshore development, software development was handed over to Polaris or Wipro or Satyam. They used to drive everything. But now, pretty much they want to chop down all the budget. They want to have their own, office, their own software development center, their own employees driving it, rather than a third party driving it. What happens is when the project is handed over to a third party company, there are issues that you have to deal with. A lot of issues that you have to deal with. So, and also as far as the budget goes, on-site, it's very difficult to, spend and manage, big teams and implementations. These days, pretty much, give me a second. These days, pretty much every company is trying to, set up their own software development center, especially clients like Bank of America, all these big guys. And they have their own, customized software development centers because they want to save money. And also, what I have observed these days is most of the software development jobs, technology jobs, it could be a Java developer, .NET, or any technology, right? All these jobs, and especially, most importantly, even the QA, quality analyst, testing jobs, are completely offshored to India. Completely. What I am seeing these days for the past 6 months is for every software project, there is going to be one lead on site, the QA lead, and the whole testing is done offshore. Yeah, I mean, so technically, there's a lot of QA jobs that are going back offshore, and there's hardly any QA jobs left here. Okay, because see, the same QA I'm spending around $60, $70 on site, I can get somebody for like $15, $20, back offshore, right? So I'm getting pretty much, of course, the quality probably may not be the same, but you got to pay what you get, right? You pay less peanuts, you get monkeys, right? So depending on the project, on the budget they have. Things are driven. Yeah, go ahead. Somebody was asking you a question.
Hey, Subhash, this is Keith. I do agree with what you're saying that they are trying to, because of the budget constraints, they are trying to shift QA outside the country. But then, as you said, the quality is not there, and they're realizing that the 80-20 rule is not being done.
Correct.
They see there are more defects.
Correct.
And they do not have enough warranty to support those defects.
Right.
Therefore they prefer having QA and BA right now in the country itself rather than outsourcing it. And
that is 100% right. What you said is right. These days, what they're trying to do is they are trying to leverage the job of a QA to a BA as well. Right? In addition to performing the business analyst role and responsibility, you may also have to step up, and you may also have to do some testing as well. But of course, I'm not talking about automation testing in any tools at all. But at least whatever hands-on that you can do from the testing perspective, definitely you will be involved, and we will talk about testing and everything as well in the class here. So we will cover the testing concepts as well. And I think one of the funniest part is even what I have observed personally, wanted to save money, and the development is done offshore, by paying very cheap price, probably like 30% of the price. And obviously, when you're paying less, the quality of the development is also based on what you pay, right? And eventually, what happens is there are a lot of defects in the software, and again, in order to test the software, in order to fix all these issues, you pretty much end up spending a lot of time and money fixing the damage that has been done. I don't know if clients have started realizing that, but pretty much that's one of the biggest issue these days. All right. Any questions, folks? Okay. Moving on to the next one, project planning. What is a project plan? Who prepares? the project plan? What are the tools that may be used in preparing project plan? I think these are some concepts that you will understand out of this. A project plan is prepared by the project manager. A project plan identifies all the tasks involved in the project. In order to accomplish a software, in order to develop a software, what are the set of tasks that need to be done? Right? So a project manager is responsible for identifying each and every task associated with the project. And a project manager is also responsible for ensuring the delivery of this software, and a project manager through this project plan will identify all the tasks. Every task will be assigned to a resource who is going to accomplish the task. So a project manager is responsible for identifying the task. He will be responsible for hiring the resources, assigning the task to the resources, also analyzing the start date and end date for each and every task, and also ensure that every resource in the project is tracking to their tasks and timelines. So pretty much the whole project is driven based on timelines. And the project manager is responsible for ensuring and tracking to see that the whole project is progressing as per the expectation. One of the most familiar tools used for project planning is MS Project. MS Project, Microsoft Project. I repeat, one of the most important or most familiar, most sought tool used for project management is Microsoft Project. Microsoft Project is one of the products in the Office suite, in the MS Office suite, in the Microsoft Office suite. However, when you purchase MS Office, it's not part of the MS Office. You have to purchase this exclusively. MS Project is a separate, product within the MS Office suite. You have to purchase it exclusively. But of course, from a business analyst standpoint of view, you probably may be involved in project planning also. You may work with the project manager, help him, identify the tasks and help him put the plan together. Right? And I'm also going to show you how this MS Project works, how it looks like. It's as simple as using Excel. If you're familiar with Microsoft Excel, then it's pretty much the same. Very simple and very easy to use. Okay. Now, it's very important to track and manage the resources, because from a management perspective, the project manager has to report the status of a project to the clients, on a regular basis. And because they're spending money, and you have to tell them what's going on, how things are working, right? For example, if the whole project is planned out and this project plan says that, okay, by end of 2015, we are going to deliver this project to you, on a weekly basis or on a bi-weekly basis, the client needs to be notified as of how the project is progressing, right? And the status of a project normally is represented in three colors, right? Green, yellow, and red. I repeat, the project status from a reporting perspective is represented in three colors. Green, yellow, and red. What does green mean? If the project manager is reporting the project status as green, it means that everything is working as expected. All as of today, we are still tracking to our delivery date. As of now, whatever we have planned so far, we have accomplished whatever we have on the plan. We are on track. We are scheduled to arrive on time as per the initial promise. If the project status is represented as yellow, it means that the project is definitely not on track. But however, there is a possibility that we can catch up. We at this moment we are not on time. We are not expecting that we will reach on time at this moment. But however, there are some certain set of issues that we are handling. But definitely we think that we can overcome this in the next couple of weeks, and we should pretty much be green. Okay. Red definitely indicates that you'll not be able to make it on. There is something going wrong, and the moment the stakeholders and the business will see that the project status is being reported as yellow, this is pretty much a alert for them saying that things are offline, and people start jumping in, trying to know what are the issues. For example, a project manager is waiting for budget approval. The project has started. He needs to hire some more resources, and he's waiting for the approval. He followed up a couple of times with the stakeholders. Nobody responds. Next week, project status is red. Project status is red because I don't have the budget approved. I cannot get it done. So get me the budget, or else we will not able to track this. So the moment he displays red, then pretty much it's an alert for everybody. Because these reports, go to the higher management. Right. And also, the project plan basically helps the stakeholders or help the project manager manage the whole project. At any point, the project manager, by looking at this plan, can easily figure out, what is the status, are we on track, and how the project is going on. Right? For example, there may be like 100 resources working on a project. Right? How do I know as a project manager that a particular resource is tracking and he is pretty much on par with what he's supposed to do and what he is doing? Right? By looking at this plan, I know for sure that this resource XYZ, as of today, he should have completed. By looking at the plan, the plan says that this resource XYZ should have completed task 1, task 2, and as of today, he should have completed 70% of task 3. Okay, so this is what the plan says. Now, he can walk to the resource and he can clearly identify, this is what the plan says. Are you on track? So in this way, they can easily track and manage and make sure that everything is in place. And if things are not on track, again the project manager will start micromanaging and make sure that he gets back the things on track. Any questions, folks? What is the role of a business analyst here? A business analyst may be interacting with the project manager, identify all the tasks, help him identify all the tasks, and you may also use the MS Project software to input all these tasks, assign the tasks accordingly, and make sure that you help him pretty much assisting in preparing the project or even identifying the tasks. So see, it purely depends on on the project manager how they want to utilize your services as a BA, and depends on your bandwidth. Whether how much occupied are you in the requirements gathering. So there are a lot of things that derive whether you will be involved in all these, especially planning and analysis or not. Sometimes what happens is they do pretty much all the planning analysis. The stakeholders and business users, they themselves get it done. Sometimes. Maybe a BA may not be involved in this at all. It purely depends on the organization and the process.
Do you have resources to work offline, like not in office and back home?
I'm not sure what you mean.
The time.
I'm sorry, I'm not able to understand what you're saying. When you say resource, what do you mean by offline and online resource?
Yeah, I remember.
Did you say you just forgot your question?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I would like, if we ran out of time, and is there resources available, like I can go home and work on it, or I just have to sit in the office and do it? Just to track it and catch up as a BA or someone in the project.
Okay, so your question is, when you start working as a business analyst, and if you cannot get your job done in 8 hours, what you're asking is, can I go back and log in from home and work? Is that what you're asking? No. It depends on the organization. Some companies give you access work from home. These days, at least 80% of the companies are actually giving you access to work from home. So you should be able to work from home, technically, yes.
Or Subhash, you can push back timelines.
I'm sorry?
Or you can push back your timeline.
You can push back your timeline? Yes. You can sit in the office, pretty much 12 to 15 hours. Nobody's going to ask you to leave.
No. What I'm saying is, let's say if you cannot meet your timelines, you cannot meet your deliverables, you can push back your deliverables based on your bandwidth.
That's a good point that you brought up. So what he's saying is, Keith is saying that you can push back your deliverables based on your bandwidth. I think as a BA, when you know that you have to get a task done, when you know that somebody is allocating you a task, you need to make sure, first of all, that you give them a heads up. Before you give a commitment, right? The first thing, what I always used to do was, when a project manager or somebody is coming back to me and giving me a task, the first thing that I ask them normally is, by when do you need this done? That is the first question that you should be asking, right? Let us say they say, you know what, I need this in 2 days, okay? Then if I know for sure I don't have anything on my plate, then I'm going to always tell them that, you know what, okay, I'll get back to you on that. If I'm not sure whether I can deliver it on time, I will always say I will get back to you. I'll let you know whether, I can get it done in 2 days or not. Give me an hour or 2 hours. I'll have to figure out what's in my plate, how much time would I need, how much time I can spend on this, and, I'll get back to you. But however, once you make a commitment saying that, I'm going to get it done, you cannot push it back. That's absolutely not acceptable. Okay, you need to give a heads up, because a lot of people may be waiting for your inputs. So whenever, at any point, whenever you get a task, you always have to, give a clear indication and heads up, as of what you can do, what you cannot do. You probably have only 8 hours, right? You cannot work for 24 hours a day.
Hey, Subhash, this is Keith again. You have to give how many estimated hours will that task be allocated for?
Correct.
During the initial project charter stage and project planning stage and requirement gathering stage, or rather more towards project planning and more towards that stage. But now I have a question for you. I think I posted it. I sent it to you on chat. Is the BA engaged in post-production validation?
Yes.
Or
yes, definitely yes. Definitely yes.
And what about during the warranty?
I'm sorry, using what?
The warranty phase. Yeah. Is the BA engaged during the warranty phase?
Oh, you mean the testing phase? Yeah. A business
No, past the testing phase. After complete sign-off and the software is deployed, and you have a like 30 days warranty, right? I mean,
whatever.
For example,
Company
right?
standard.
So, yeah, based on the company standard of 15 days or whatever, 5 days. So is the BA engaged during the warranty phase just in case any defect comes up? No.
See, a business analyst, depending on the bandwidth a business analyst has, if he is available, then he can be involved in every phase of the project. All right?
Okay.
I haven't really discussed the rest of the phases as of now, but let me tell you something. As a business analyst, the only thing that I did not do in the project in the IT industry was programming. Apart from programming, because I didn't know how to code.
Yeah.
Okay? Apart from
not
that,
the development.
Yeah, I mean the software development, the actual hands-on coding. Apart from coding,
Right.
I was involved in every damn phase of the SDLC. In whatever way they can utilize you, they will utilize you.
Fair enough.
Okay? And I think
Generally,
as we speak further about each and every phase, I think I will deep dive and discuss in detail about the role and responsibility of a BA.
I mean, generally, and I'm sorry, and I hope I'm not diverging or not jumping.
Go ahead, that's fine. I'll charge you like hours more. That's fine. All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Subhash.
Go ahead.
Generally speaking, in the bank, I've never seen the BA involved in post-production validation after the software.
As I said, depending on the client, depending on what they want, depending on how they want to use a resource, they can use a resource, right? I mean, if the BA is available, they may use it. If the BA is not available, they may not be able to use it. So it purely depends on the organization. So I cannot comment on, the process that you are involved or the company that you are working with was involved. It purely varies from client to client, company to company to project.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Right? Yeah.
Because business analyst is supposed to know the all functionality and everything of the project. He has to be there in all phases.
You're right.
Yeah.
That is the expectation at least these days.
Yeah, because he is the person who is interacting with the users and technical person.
Correct.
Yeah, so he has to be there.
Good question. How many projects is a BA supposed to handle or ideally handles at a time concurrently? Because the client. Okay.
So how many projects as a BA you will handle purely depends on the bandwidth that you have, number one.
Right.
Number two, depends on how many projects the client has in working in progress. Purely depends on, several factors. I mean, there may be 10 projects and you may be deployed on all the 10 projects as well if the projects are small, right? And if there is one large complex project, there may be 10 BAs involved and working on the same project.
Now, how does a BA resolve the conflict? Because for those 10 projects, there might be 10 different project managers or, whatever. And everyone wants their project to get the first priority. Now, BA is quite low on the ladder.
No, that's not the case.
No. Compared to the project managers. See, project managers are dealing directly with the client. And client is pushing, okay, you know what, I need my project done by a certain date and no matter what. Everyone is just shoving down the responsibility and the timelines on the business analyst. How are they expected to resolve that conflict? Because it happens in real life.
No, I think it's rather than saying it as a conflict, I would say managing your tasks.
Okay, let's use that.
That's the right word to use. See, first of all, as a BA, as you said, you may be involved in working on so many projects, and you may be responsible for delivering multiple things at the same time, right? And this is the point where you have to step up. When the expectations are high, you need to organize yourself, you need to organize your tasks, and you need to let people know that this is what I have and this is the bandwidth. There is so much I can do, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is when I can develop and deliver it for you. It could be a document, whatever they're asking for. right? So you have to be very clear and very organized when you are reporting information. For example, there are 10 tasks that are coming to you from 10 different people. The moment you come back to me and ask me to get it done in 2 days, I have to clearly tell you whether I can do it or not, right? I have to, again, when I'm coming back and telling you that I cannot do it, I should have justification, in my plate saying that, okay, these are the action items, what goes first, what goes next is prioritized based on the manager and based on so many other factors, right? Or somebody else or my direct reporting lead will decide what is the priority, what is the first priority, what is the second priority. So everything goes by priority, and you have to organize yourself.
So good thing that you mentioned priority, because when we are getting those tasks or when we are putting the requirements, is there a place where we say, okay, these are the priority number 1 things and these are priority number 2 things? And because when I was working, that's how we would do our tasks. We would say, okay, this is absolutely to be done by X, timeline, and this can wait. This is priority number 3, and this is priority number 1, or whatever. But in the planning stage, do we assign those priorities?
Of course. I mean, irrespective of which stage you are, if you have tasks to do, you always prioritize things and you always organize.
And you work with the project manager directly.
Exactly, whoever it is, right? For example, if a project manager is waiting for your inputs, ask them what is the priority. If a development team is waiting for inputs, ask for priority. You have to talk to them and set expectations, set priorities, and make sure that you're on the same page. See, I did work with so many managers, and most of them are okay if you tell them upfront that you cannot get it done on time. Most of them are okay with that, right? But however, if you tell them that you're going to get it done, and if you inform them in the last minute saying that, what, I'm out of resources, I cannot do it, that is where they're going to be upset, right? So always give them indication. Tell them, be upfront, be clear as of what you can do and what you cannot do. It is what it is. But however, when you start working as a business analyst, the first 1 year is critical, okay? The first 1 year when I started, I probably spent like around 15 to 16 hours, in order to catch up and make sure that I deliver and meet the expectations. That doesn't mean that the client was giving me a lot of tasks. It's just because I did not have the expertise to get things done. The task which needed 8 hours, I was taking around 12 to 15 hours. So again, I had to spend those extra time, and I cannot ask the client to pay for those extra time because I should have get it done in 6 to 7 hours. All right. Any questions, folks, on the planning and analysis phase?
Yes, Subhash. Going back to budget and project plan again. Should they go together at the same time, since budget should be affected with the project plan as well?
Both of them. Okay. The budget plan, project plan, scope and vision, pretty much everything goes hand in hand.
Okay.
For example, if your budget plan is not approved, then probably you'll go back and you descope certain items. You may add certain items, or your project plan will. So these things keep going on. So all this pretty much is part of the planning and analysis phase.
So that's why what I'm asking was, like, when you give the budget plan, you should be already prepared with the project plan as well, right?
Correct.
Yeah, that's the only question. Thank you.
See, you will be working on, once you have a scope defined clearly, then you may be probably working on the budget and project plan parallel. Of course, when I say you, the project manager.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you started first, you said it takes you 12 hours. When you get stuck at some spot, where do you get back from the house?
Okay, so the question that I'm having here from the class is, when I got stuck, when I started my career, what did I do? I was helpless, to be honest with you, because 10 years back, there was no concept of a business analyst role. There were hardly handful of BAs out in the market. Very, very less. Very, very less number of people. And in fact, I did not get any training. When I needed help, I was struggling literally. And that was one main reason why I started, teaching and helping students. I definitely faced a lot of issues. And hopefully we should be able to help you as well.
You basically reach out to the SME. If you're stuck, you reach out to the
SME, right? No. Here, it's not about reaching out to the SME. Probably you may not even know what to ask, how to ask. So if you do not even know what to ask, how to approach, that's pretty much the basics, right? The SME is not going to tell you, come and ask you, babysit you. You need to know what to ask. Unless until you are properly trained or you are a seasoned business analyst, you will not know how to handle the situation.
Okay.
At least that was the situation when I started.
This is what I do, Subhash, when I started. And I learned this the hard way, just like you. I would ask for the BRD before a global review, 2 days before the global review. And then I would highlight all the things I couldn't understand, all the process flows I couldn't understand. If there was no mock-up or wireframe, I would write that down. And then while during the global review, I would have a list of questions that I would ask the BA.
Okay, well, I agree. I agree to whatever you said. That makes sense. But what if you don't even know what is a BRD, what is a wireframe, what is a markup?
Right.
You're not a BA. You haven't gone through any training. If you haven't done anything at all, you wouldn't even know what to ask. I mean,
I agree. Because even knowing a BRD, I got stuck.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. All right. I'm assuming that planning and analysis is clear, folks. Let's move on to the requirements gathering phase. Requirements gathering phase pretty much is the bread and butter of any business analyst. It's a very, very important and very critical phase. I think what we'll do is we'll take a quick 15-minute break and we'll again join back again, probably. So it's 10:53 now. Let's meet at 11:05 again.
How long is the class for?
Probably it will go on till 12.
4 hours?
No. Yeah, normally it's 4 hours. But we will try to wrap this up today at 12.
Okay.
Normally the class timings are from 9 to 1.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So, folks, I'm going to mute this line. We'll again join back at 11:05. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah, Subhash said he'll be back in 15 minutes.
So 15 minutes from now?
No, it's already been like 10 minutes, so he'll be back in another 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
No problem. Keith, are you there?
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Subhash said, I guess everybody was supposed to come at 11:05, but I guess maybe another 2, 3, 5 minutes.
Okay.
He'll be back.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, meanwhile, I guess if you know how to set up I can only hear on my phone, but I'm not able to hear on my computer. Do you think you can debug that, or you won't know how to do it?
I'm using the WebEx app, so I think it's way easier. You can see the video and everything on my iPhone. So
Yeah, I tried using that app too, but I think it's better if I hear everything on my computer too. I can put on a headset.
I understand. Yeah.
Did you get a link to
Yeah, I got a link. I clicked on the link and joined the meeting, but when I connected to WebEx, my headset doesn't show up. Like you see everyone's name
did you
on the
install
WebEx.
it? Did you install it? Because if it's not in your computer already, it will ask you to install it first. That's what I did, because when I first clicked on the link, right, it just kept downloading, but then the screen never popped up. So
Okay, for me the screen just popped up. I'll go ahead and download WebEx right now.
yeah, try doing that, and then maybe the screen will appear too.
I'm sorry. What happened? Any issues?
Yeah, I'm on my phone,
and I was just trying to see if I can hear the sound on my computer, because right now I can see the screen on my computer, but I hear from my phone. I was wondering if I could set up on my, computer as well.
Yeah,
Like
I mean, you will have an option. Once you go to the, the audio, pretty much you will have an option to switch audio. I'm not going to switch audio right now because I will get disconnected. So you can disconnect the audio. You can switch the audio, and you will have an option to select, the headset, the phone head, your desktop headset. Once you do it,
I get that.
Correct. Headset audio.
I can hear everything fine on the other, the sounds I hear, but it's not connected to the WebEx.
Okay. I'm not sure, what's the issue, but you should be able to, use your computer to hear.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because everyone else is like, if you see their name, you see I have one headset right next to their name. I don't see anything on mine. This is Mark, and I think Keith just has an issue.
Probably you may have to just configure your system and make sure that, you are able to see.
Okay. And are we going to get the blog access after today or tomorrow?
For the December, this new batch, we haven't created the blog yet.
Okay.
So most likely by Monday, end of the day, I will make sure.
Okay.
By Monday, end of the day, I will make sure that you will get the blog access. And I'm not sure how many haven't seen the blog. As I said, I will give you an overview of the blog once we are done today.
Okay.
All right. I'm not going to take much time today. I'll probably spend another 30-40 minutes deep diving into the requirements gathering phase. All right. So here, the next phase, as you hear, is the requirements gathering phase, and this is one of the critical phases in the software development life cycle. Let me quickly list out some of the milestones that are accomplished in this phase, and then probably we can deep dive into each of the milestones separately. So to start with, in the requirements gathering phase, the first milestone is business requirement document, which is called as BRD. Functional requirement document is FRD. Use cases, UML diagrams. UML stands for Unified Modeling Language. I repeat, UML diagrams. UML stands for Unified Modeling Language. Change request, which is also called as CR. Data mapping / analysis. Data mapping, data analysis. User interface mockups. User interface or UI. UI mockup. We also have RTM, requirements traceability matrix. The abbreviation is RTM. requirements traceability matrix, RTM. All right. As I said, some of the milestones accomplished in the requirements gathering phase are business requirement document, BRD, functional requirement document, FRD, use cases, UML diagrams, unified modeling language, change request, CR, data mapping and data analysis, user interface mockup, user interface or UI, followed by requirements traceability matrix, RTM. All right. Requirements gathering phase. The objective of requirements gathering phase is to, identify and deep dive and document the requirements. Right? Now, as a business analyst, you will be playing a very critical role in the requirements gathering phase. And as a business analyst, you will be responsible for driving the requirements gathering phase. You will play a very, very critical role and you will play an active role in the requirements gathering phase. And as a business analyst, you are responsible for interacting with the business users and document, the milestones. Now here, these are the list of milestones that you may end up delivering as a BA in the requirements gathering phase. All right. Now, the objective of our training program is to teach you how to document all these, milestones. Because when you start working in the project, these are the only set of milestones that you will end up working, especially in terms of requirements gathering. Right? And I think if you are familiar with all this and if you know what each of these milestones, is, and also if you can deliver this, I think you're good to go. Okay? And here, pretty much our goal is to make sure that you understand, not only understand each and every milestone, but also, if required, you should be able to document and deliver these milestones. So that's the main objective. Okay? Now, I'm not going to, really deep dive into each and every milestone here because we will have special classes, that we are going to spend on talking about each of the milestones here. But I'm just going to give you a high-level overview of the requirements gathering phase. As I said, the purpose of requirements gathering phase is to deep dive and document the requirements, right? To start with, so how do you start documenting these requirements? So the first milestone here that you see is in the requirements gathering phase is the business requirement document. So this is the first document prepared in the requirements gathering phase. All right? And a business requirement document is a document which captures the high-level business requirements. Okay? Now the question is, how do you get started and how do you start documenting the business requirements? I mean, in other words, what is the reference point for you to start as a BA to start documenting the business requirements? What is the reference guide for you? I mean, let us say asking you to document the business requirement, the scope, right? So in the scope and vision document, you have identified the business process, right? So in the requirements gathering phase, you need to elaborate your scope, right? You need to elaborate the business process. And folks, please mute your lines. I request all of you to mute your headsets or your phone lines, please. All right. So what we are going to do is we are going to derive the business requirements out of the scope and vision. The scope and vision pretty much is a document where you identify the business process. Now from that process, in the business requirement document, you will elaborate and you will identify the business need. All right. Now, how do you document it? How do you identify? All this is something which we will, deep dive in the next set of classes when we start talking about BRD. Okay. But for now, all you need to understand is, from the scope and vision, From the scope and vision, we derive our business requirements. All right. Now, as I said, business requirements are high level, right? And business requirements, as I said, will document the business need, but it will not document the solution. All right? The solution as of how a business requirement will be implemented is going to be documented in the functional requirements, which is FRD. So you derive the BRD from the scope, and from the business requirements, you derive the functional requirements. This is just a high level, even if you are not able to figure out the head and tail of it, don't worry about it. Once we get into the, the project, when we start discussing about each of them, you will be able to understand. But for now, all you need to understand is from the scope, you will derive your business and functional requirements. And these are pretty much the major milestones which are, the input for the developers for the technology and the rest of the team. So I'm not going to, discuss about these documents, these milestones, assuming that we will be talking about all these eventually, right? But however, we need to understand, as a business analyst, in the requirements gathering phase, you will be interacting with different people, subject matter experts or stakeholders, and you will be gathering requirements. Because whatever you are going to document in the BRD, FRD, or all these milestones, somebody is dictating information and you're documenting it, right? Here, one of the most important question is, as a business analyst, how do you gather requirements? Or in other words, what are the different techniques that you use as a business analyst to gather requirements? Conduct meetings, right? Now, brainstorming, conducting meetings. I have a very, very detailed and elaborate answer because this is one of the most commonly, frequently asked interview questions. The question is like, how do you gather requirements? So I just cannot say this meeting, right? It has to be more detailed because you are a seasoned business analyst, all right? So I'll try to give you some detailed answers. So there are certain set of steps that you should follow as a business analyst in the process of gathering requirements. I'm going to list out all these steps, and as I said, this is going to be important because this is one of the most frequently asked interview questions. Question is, how do you gather requirements? Or what are the methods, what are the techniques that you use, and how would you go about gathering requirements? Something like that. Okay. So there are certain steps that I would follow as a business analyst in the process of gathering requirements. Step number one, the first and foremost thing is to identify stakeholders. Identify, or as a matter of fact, identify what information is required, right? So when you're documenting, when you have to gather requirements, the very first thing that you need to know is, okay, what information do I need to complete my requirements, right? So identifying the information, identifying what kind of requirements, what is the information that is required, in order to document your requirements. That is step one. Step two is identifying stakeholders. And as a stakeholders or clients, whoever is the business user who is going to dictate the requirements. So step number two here, as I said, is identifying the stakeholders. Now, when I say identifying the stakeholders, depending on the business process, there may be one or more than one stakeholder. All right, and it is important that when you're gathering requirements, you have to interact. You have to involve every stakeholder, every business user in the meeting. If you do not include, let us say if there are 4 people and if you just exclude a couple of them, you keep talking to 1 or 2, And by the end of the day, once you gather the requirement, document it, and when you go for approvals, without the approval of all the 4 stakeholders, the development team will not consume that input, right? And the stakeholders who you did not interact with, they are going to give you a tough time. They will not approve the document because you did not ask them any of their inputs. So they're not going to they will not be happy about it. So it's important that you identify each and every stakeholder who is going to be the reviewing and approving authority for this project. And how do you know about it? Probably you'll have to ask people, your project manager or whoever will be helping you identify the stakeholders. So you have to step up and ask. All right. Now, step 3 is once you identify the stakeholders, then step 3 is set up meeting. Now, setting up meeting, there are different types of meetings or methods that you would use. Let us say if there is only one stakeholder that you have to meet, then the meeting that you set up is called as one-on-one meeting. Right? Or it could be a JAD session. JAD session, J-A-D. JAD session refers to Joint Application Development Session. Could be a one-on-one meeting, or it could be a JAD session, J-A-D, Joint Application Development Session, or it could be a brainstorming session. Right? So depending on the number of stakeholders available, let us say if you have one person, you are interacting with one-on-one, it's a one-on-one meeting. Joint application development, when we have a group of business users and you are interacting with them, or even if a technology team person also jumps in, it could be a JAD session. You're trying to, together you sit together and you discuss, how things to be done. It's a joint application development, right? Brainstorming session is a session where, you identify, you have 10 solutions, and the purpose of brainstorming session is to discuss about each and every solution, and the outcome is to identify the best possible solution among the available list of options. Kind of, brainstorming each and every ideas, brainstorming thoughts, and making sure that everybody agrees on the end result. Okay? Any questions so far?
How would you come up with questions to these sessions, for these meetings?
How would you come up with questions?
What kind of meeting would you first read the scope and vision to hold the meeting? Because what questions would you ask?
I was actually about to talk about it. Now, before you set up, as part of setting up the meeting, step number 4 is to publish the agenda of the meeting.
What?
Publish meeting agenda. Right? Step number 4, I said, is to publish the agenda of the meeting. So here, as I said, assuming that you know what information you want, at least at a high level, you have to, list out the topics that you want to discuss, and it's very important to publish the, agenda of the meeting, because you want to give a heads up to whoever is joining the meeting, saying that, hey folks, this is what I'm looking for, and this is what I want to capture as part of this meeting. So this is kind of a heads up to whoever is joining the meeting that they should be prepared to answer all these questions revolving around that particular subject. So you will publish whatever, just, bullets of what information are you going to be discussing, about what are you going to discuss in this meeting. All right. Now, once you publish the agenda, always remember, when you plan to set up a meeting, always try to give at least 1 day prior notice. Always. That's a good practice, right? Do not set up meetings. See, normally in the office, you may be using Microsoft Outlook to set up meetings. Okay? So when you start using these Outlook, make sure that you give at least 1 day notice and look at their calendar. Once you open up their calendar, once you start setting up meeting, you will see what time slots are open. So make sure that you give them sufficient time, at least as I said, at least 1 day notice. Number 2, make sure that before you set up a meeting, check their calendar, and make sure that you are sending a meeting request on the time zone where they are available. And if you have multiple people who needs to be involved in this meeting, make sure all of them are available. So I think those are some things which you have to do before you get into this, start setting up meetings, because you don't want to be in a situation where you send a meeting request to 5 people and probably only 2 are available. You cannot drive the meeting without everybody. So make sure if their calendar is not available, talk to them, identify a common timeline. Do your due diligence before you publish the meeting request to everybody. All right? Because you should not be in a situation where you get into a meeting, nobody is there. Sometimes people do accept and they don't turn up. That's a different story. But they don't even respond to the meeting request sometimes. So there are a lot of situations that you have to deal with. We'll talk about it later. But at least from your side, whatever you have to do to get people together, do your due diligence and make sure that you are able to pull the crowd into the meeting.
Possible, like if we meet 3 people today, there are 4 total. Meet 3 people today and 1 tomorrow, or we don't do like that.
Okay, what you're saying is if I have to meet 4 people, can I meet 3 today? 4th person is not available. Can I meet him tomorrow? You can do it, but the problem is, there will be always conflict. There will be always, because the thing is, 3 of them come to an agreement, and the next day the other guy doesn't even know the context. He may have a difference of opinion. But however, probably if you had all the 4 in one room in one meeting, things could have been even more easy. So I would not complicate the situations. I would wait for 1 more day, make sure get everybody, because I don't want to be, I'm already a barrier, but I don't want to again create more hurdles in this process. I would try my best to get everybody in one room, get all the information, get out. That's always the ideal way of doing it, but it may not happen. As you said, I mean, if I don't have an option, I may have to end up doing the same, whatever you said. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Alex, once you publish the meeting agenda, and as I said, right, I had one stakeholder where I was meeting when I was working with the bank back in Minneapolis. The stakeholder used to tell me, Subhash, if you want to set up a meeting, you have to give me at least 2 days notice. At least 2 days notice. Do not set up any meetings, just on the same day, and do not expect me to show up. I'm not going to respond back to your meeting. I'm not going to, accept the meeting. Let's have an agreement. And obviously I knew that this guy was so busy, and he had to organize himself. He had to plan himself, accordingly. And couple of times, I tried to stop by his desk and get some answers, but he was like, Subhash, we had an agreement. I'm busy. I cannot talk to you. So just imagine how organized you have to be before you get into this meeting. And that brings up the 5th point, which is preparing a questionnaire. Right? So before you get into the meeting, you have to have, a list of questions that you want to ask. Anything that makes sense. I mean, I would not recommend you to get into a meeting without having any information, without having no knowledge, and just sitting in the meeting and expect people to talk. That should never happen. I mean, even if you are starting on a new project today, it's not an excuse that you're not prepared. What I would do is I would do my homework, go back, just get hands-on on any documents that are available. At least know about the project. Try to understand what they're what's the project about. Frame some questions, some logical questions around that. You don't want to be looking dummy and just sitting and expecting people to talk. That should never be the case. A business analyst should be the driver of the meeting. Nobody should be driving the meeting. You should drive and you should ask questions. Of course, it's going to be a little challenging when you start the project because some of the questions that you may ask may not be logical to the concept, but at least you are stepping up, and eventually once you start asking questions, then you will know what is right and what is wrong, and eventually you will get to the direction. But if you're not asking questions, if you're not doing your due diligence, if you're not doing your homework, then you will definitely be lagging behind. And people will probably think that this guy, this BA is just coming to the meetings, he's not even talking, he's not prepared. We cannot just sit and spoon feed him. Nobody's going to do that. If you start working in a new project, get your hands on. Before you get into the meeting, try to get a hold of the stakeholder. Ask him, hey, you know what, I'm starting this project today. I have no idea, no background. Can you at least spend some time, give me some background, or at least give me some document where I can go through and catch up, and probably I'll come back with questions. So all these are some things which you can do. Just because you are new to the project and because you do not know the process doesn't mean that it's an excuse. Don't look for excuses, look for solutions. Right? So preparing a questionnaire, whatever logical questions that you could ask before you get into the meeting. And finally, once you get into the meeting, right, make sure that you clearly announce the objective of the meeting. Okay? Once you start the meeting, see, normally the meetings may be physically in a room, where everybody is walking into the room, or sometimes it could be a conference call where everybody gets on this conference call and they talk, right? And sometimes what happens is most of the stakeholders, they are so busy that they don't even they have lined up meetings from morning to evening, and all they know is the Outlook. There's a meeting popped up, they dial in, right? They're probably, carrying a lot of information from the previous meeting, and they get in, they have no clue what's going on. I mean, in spite of you sending the, agenda of the meeting, probably they may never have looked at it, right? So it's very important that you clearly tell them what is the objective. Okay? Tell them the objective, what is the purpose of the meeting, what is that you want to accomplish out of this meeting, so that you can drive the meeting and, do not let anybody hijack the meeting. Right? Your meeting purpose should be met. So make sure that everybody announce, everybody knows what's the purpose, and start asking questions. Right? Start asking questions. I'm sorry? What is in the meeting agenda? The purpose of the meeting is in the meeting agenda, but sometimes what happens is they may not even look at the meeting request. I mean, I did it a lot of times. I had a lot of stakeholders who stepped up and were like, oh, what are we talking about? So they don't look at it, and I'm not going to blame them because they're so busy.
So they have to brief the agenda again.
Right. Brief of the agenda saying that, okay, folks, this is the purpose of the meeting. This is what I want to accomplish in the meeting, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. All right. Once you get into the meeting, start asking questions, and they will start dictating the answers for you, and make the running notes, out of the meeting. Right? Make sure that every information that is being shared to you is quickly documented. You may not have time to, document it in an official format, but at least whatever you are comfortable with, you can take a pen and paper into the meeting, and or you can probably take your laptop, whatever you are comfortable with. You can record. Yeah, sometimes companies also record meetings, but recording is something which doesn't happen in every client place. Sure. Make sure that you are clear with all the answers that are being shared, and also once you get out of the meeting, you cannot go back and ask the same question again and again. All right. If you have any question or confusion about any statement in the meeting, make sure it's clarified then and there. Slow them down. If a question doesn't make sense, ask it again. That is fine. But once the meeting is over, you're not going back asking it again and again because people will get annoyed. Okay. Now, once you make this quick and short running notes, and once you go back to your desk, you will be publishing all the information. You will summarize all this information, and you will publish the MOM, which is called as minutes of meeting or meeting minutes. Right? Once you go back, you will publish the MOM, minutes of the meeting. Now, what is this minutes of meeting capture? In the meeting minutes, you will list out the audience who have attended the meeting, list of attendees. What were the key decisions made in the meeting? So what were the key conclusions? What were the key decisions? What were the outcome of the meeting? What are the takeaways of the meeting? For example, stakeholder XYZ says, I'll come back to you on this topic probably tomorrow. Or another resource client says, I'll come back with you the requirements day after tomorrow. Follow. It's a takeaway for them, right? So you have to document all those takeaways and also the timelines. When they agreed upon everything, right? Because you want to follow up on those takeaways. Because you cannot be again coming back to square one as of, okay, where am I standing? It shouldn't be the case. So you should have the follow-up, takeaways, all the key decisions, everything as a summarized minutes of meeting. And normally every client will have their own format of minutes of meeting. I'll also show you some sample minutes of meeting as of how you can document it. But pretty much you can use a template or you can actually publish it in an email, whatever works and whatever the client process goes, wherever you work. But I'll show you some standard process as well.
Will be provided by the company, or we gotta figure out?
Every template, if the client is following a template that you have to use for publishing minutes of meeting, they will provide the template. Or else, I would just draft it in an email and just publish it to everybody. If there is no meeting format or template format that they follow, I would just publish it in an email and then send it to everybody. Yeah, go ahead.
Based on if there's one BA for a project and you're leading the meeting, what if there's multiple BAs and there's a BA lead? How does that work?
Okay, so now a project can have one or more BAs. There could, as you said, there could be a lead BA and probably like 4 to 5 BAs assigned to the lead. So the lead BA is going to identify all the requirements at a high level, and he'll allocate the tasks, the requirement tasks to the respective BAs. So every BA will have his own set of BRDs and FRDs that he or she may have to deliver. So when you know as a BA, you will know what documents you are going to work on, what milestones that you will be working on, and you will be driving your own meetings, your own stuff.
So, Subhash, so when is the meeting minute be prepared? Like right immediately after the meeting or on the same table?
Yeah, I mean, you cannot publish the meeting minutes after a month, right? You have to, as soon as with the meeting, I would publish, at least by end of the day, I would publish the meeting minutes to the entire audience, whoever, needs to be copied. And, the assumption is that this meeting minutes is kind of a agreement copy between the and the technology, the business users. And if the business users, the business users' expectation is that the business users are reviewing the minutes of meeting, and they're accepting it as an acknowledgement. And if they have a difference of opinion, if they think that the meeting minutes is incorrect, is different what was agreed in the meeting, they have to revert back immediately, and they have to say that, I think, you documented it incorrectly, or there is some miscommunication. So they have to reply back. If they do not reply back, it means that they said yes.
Yeah, okay. This is about the emailing thing, right? What if it's on the table? you show it to them and get like sign off from every one of the like stakeholder participating in the meeting?
Yeah, I mean, yes, you may also do it like what happens is if you're in a meeting, as you speak, you keep documenting all the meeting minutes. Probably on a projector, you'll be sharing your screen and you'll be documenting whatever was discussed, and you'll show it to them. But I would always email. You should always email.
Okay.
Because you need a proof.
Right,
saying,
right.
This was what was discussed and this is what we are agreeing about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Always keep emails. Because
Okay.
stakeholders may not stick to their words.
Yeah, right. That's true. Like you said, like they may not even get a chance to see the agenda. So how would they be, like following up those stuff?
Right.
So even if it's on the table, it is better to send them email afterwards.
Yeah,
right?
It is always. You have to always publish an email. Meeting minutes is always published to everybody.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
In the meeting room, everybody may agree, but we need an acknowledgement receipt.
Okay.
Because the information that you have gathered is eventually going to be boiling down into your BRDs, FRD, into all your requirement documents.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important because what happens is you spend so much time, organizing these meetings, documenting information, going back and updating your documents, and you don't want to be in a situation where after a week when you share the actual document for review, you don't want to be in a situation where they come back and they say, I don't think we never discussed about this concept.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's what exactly happens in real life.
It happens and we don't want to be in a situation like that.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right. So these are the different steps that as a BA you would be following in the process of gathering or documenting information.
Do you set up meetings only with the stakeholders, or since you're a liaison between the stakeholders and the technical, would you be setting up meetings with them to deliver?
Yes, you will also be interacting with the technology team. And in this process, yes, you will be setting up meetings with architects, developers, a lot of people as well. I haven't reached there, started talking about it. Yeah. But yes, I think to answer your question, yes, you will see you are the only person in the project who will be interacting with everybody, in the project. And most of the time, you will be using Microsoft Office to document requirements, and especially the BRD, FRD. Most of the time, they are documented using Word or Excel. So if you are familiar with Excel, I think you are good. You don't have to be an expert in Word or Excel. Even if you know the basics, I think anybody can learn Word and Excel. It's just about documentation. And of course, we'll teach you, how to document, what to document.
They also have templates, right?
Every document will have a predefined template. So if at all you have to document a BRD or as a matter of fact, any document, the first thing that you have to ask is, do we have a template? If yes, where do I find the template? The answer will always be yes, because at this point, every client will have predefined, templates. Like Bank of America or Citi, any bank, any customer, any client that you take, they already have a process set up. They are into software development. They will have predefined standards that they are already following. You just have to fill in the template and pick up the template and fill in the blanks. The project manager may give it to you, or whoever, a lead BA or whoever you are working with. The only thing is you have to step up and ask for it. All right. Any questions, folks? What is the time frame of a BRD delivery? Again, I don't have a solid answer for it. It purely depends on, I cannot even give you a general answer because it depends on how complex
the timelines
are, right? How complex the requirements are, and pretty much based on the complexity of the requirements, the timelines are decided, right? Now, it could be 3 month, 6 month, 1 month. It could be anything. you could probably finish it in 1 week also, or probably as a matter of fact, couple of days also. It purely depends on the case-by-case basis and also timelines basis. It's all predefined. Normally, the project managers come up with a high-level estimate based on the volume, based by looking at the scope. They come up with kind of a ballpark estimate of the timelines. Sometimes they may be right, but most of the time they are wrong. They always underestimate stuff, and the task which actually needs 2 weeks, they may ask you to deliver it in 2 days. These are all things which are likely to happen. And whenever you get into these situations, you have to start interacting, start communicating, start speaking up. When there is an expectation, always, do not panic. There is no need for panicking. Always be upfront, be clear, speak up. Okay, if you need something, ask for it. All right. Moving on to the design phase. The design phase is another critical phase in this whole process. Once the requirements are complete, then as a business analyst, first of all, before you actually start the design phase, you will be responsible for setting up meetings. Once you finish documenting these requirements, you will be responsible for setting up meetings with the business users and review the document with them, consume all the input. If they give you more requirements, if they change some requirements, once they start looking, you have to update the document again and make sure that they review it and get an official approval from them. The official approval can be as simple as an email stating that, we have reviewed it and I'm officially approving it, and this is pretty much what I want as part of the next software release. So we need an official approval, and once the official approval is given by the stakeholders, then the design phase starts. Okay, what is design phase? What is the objective of design phase? What are the milestones accomplished in the design phase? So in the design phase, one of the most important milestone accomplished is TDD, Technical Design Document. I repeat, one of the milestones accomplished in the design phase is the Technical Design Document. They also call it as TDD. All right. As soon as the requirements gathering is complete, the next step is the design. In the design phase, the objective of the design phase is to design the architecture of the software that you're trying to develop. Every software will have an architecture design, right? And here in the design phase, the technical architect and a team of technical architects are responsible for designing the architecture of the software. And the milestone accomplished in the design phase is the technical design document. So this technical design document is the document which captures the architecture design as of how the design of the software architecture will look like and how the design will be framed, as per the requirements. Simple example. Let us say if you have to construct a house, right? You have, your scope is defined. You want a big house, a 5-bedroom house with a master bath, a 5 car parking garage. Then you also want a swimming pool. So your scope is clear. Your requirements are also clear, right? Your budget, everything is clear. Your requirements are clear. You know how much big each room should be, what's the size, the requirements are clear. Okay, and you got all the approvals, from the, the municipality or whatever is required, right? What do you next? What is the next step? Do you go ahead and do you hire the construction workers and start the construction, or do you go ahead and hire a civil engineer to design the blueprint or architecture of the building, right? The first thing that you do is, tell him, what, I want a building to be constructed, a house to be constructed, and, I need the civil architecture design, the civil plan, the civil layout or the blueprint of the building, right? Because without the civil architecture design, the construction workers cannot start their work, right? Because the construction is based on the plan, the architecture, right, or the blueprint. So similarly, even in the IT industry, the design team, the architects are responsible for designing the architecture, before the development kicks off. Now, the question is, in order to design the architecture of software, what is the input for the technical architects? What information do you think would the technical architects need in order to accomplish their design, in order to finish their design?
All the details.
All the details, like what?
What is expected by the company?
Right. So here, what you said is right. So here, they would need the requirements, right? They would need the requirements in order to give a architecture design. See, if you go to a civil engineer and ask him to give you an architecture design, he's going to ask you, okay, what do you want? What are your requirements, right? So when you tell him that, okay, you need a 5-bedroom house, you need a car parking garage, all this information is required for him because he is going to design the architecture based on your requirement, right? Similarly, even in the IT industry, in the design phase, the technical architects would need the requirements, right? Now here, as a business analyst, you will be setting up meetings with the design team, the architects, and you will be reviewing the requirements, you will explain the requirements, you will walk them through the requirements. Okay? Based on the requirements that you provide them, they are going to start designing the architecture. Now, what may also happen here sometimes, based on the requirements that you, review and provide them, sometimes they may come back and they say, what, this is not feasible to implement. Right? Just like, the same happens in when you go to your architect, right, civil architect. You tell him that, what, you want a 5-bedroom, after looking at the space that you have, he may come back and say, what, with the space that you have, I don't think you can get 5 bedrooms, but probably we can do 4 bedrooms. So they come back, the technical team will also come back, the architecture team, the design team, which comprises of the technical architects will come back and they'll tell you, in case if there is a technical challenges. And you as a business analyst will have to understand that, from a functional standpoint of view. And again, you don't have to understand technology, just communicate the same to the business users and, go back to them with an alternative solution. If there is a problem, you should pretty much figure out a workaround solution and, communicate with them, make sure they are okay with that, and, you will also be playing a liaison. But again, when you are not able to communicate this technical information, I would, set up meeting with both the teams at the same time, put the business, put the technology, let them discuss and let them sort it out. That is something which makes more sense because the technology team can speak in technical terms, and sometimes business users, as a BA, when you go back and tell them that it's not feasible, probably they may not be happy with that. But if the same language comes from, same words come from the technical architects team, it may be a different, picture. So depending on the situation, depending on who you are working with, who you are dealing with, you will have to, act accordingly and make sure that at the end of the day, the whole team is on the same page. All right. Any questions?
You don't think you would need some kind of background to understand why a certain thing is not feasible based on what the architect is saying? Yeah.
Sometimes what happens is they explain they try to tell me in technical terms, and I tell them, you know what, I don't understand what you're talking about. Explain me in English what the problem is. That's what I would tell them. And again, as a BA, they won't expect you to understand what they're talking about. And that's the reason they always try to make it as simple as possible. And if they don't do it, it's your job to ask them, make it simplify. Sometimes they forget that I'm not a technical person and they start talking about technology. I just stop them and I tell them that, you know what, I think I have to remind you that I'm not a technical guy. Explain me in English why you cannot do it. You're just going to translate it to the client the same exact way.
Sometimes stakeholders might also not understand.
Sometimes, correct. But end of the day, the message is that it cannot be done. Right? That's all. That's all they have to understand finally.
But we have to get their approval also
correct.
Before we proceed.
Correct. Without if there is a deviation in what is asked for, then obviously you have to always communicate, make sure that they are okay, do not take things for granted.
Right. So at that point, do we do a change request or we revise the scope?
You may have to go back and you may have to update the scope, or you may have to update the requirement. There are different techniques that follow to do it. Especially we document something called as change request (CR). We'll talk about it as well eventually. But yeah, pretty much as a BA, you will be documenting all these changes as well, and you make sure that everybody understands what needs to be done.
Hey, Subhash, can you say that can you say that the design phase is the process flow or the business process flow of the requirement, of the technical requirement?
Business process flow of the technical requirement, I'm not sure what you mean by business process flow of technical requirements.
It's like, what I would say.
Technical design is basically a document which directs the developers as of how they should be developing. It's a technical solution. If a civil architect is designing a civil plan, the civil architecture plan will tell the construction workers as of how many pillars will this building have, what is the distance between each pillar, what is the size of this pillar, what is the size of the room, everything. So all this information is provided in the civil architecture plan. Similarly, based on even in the IT industry, the technical design document will pretty much be the referral guide for them to implement the solution. Would that make sense?
Quick question, Shiva. So, this is not related to the flow charts, right?
No.
Okay, this is something that's before the developer.
No, this is not related to flow. This has nothing to do with flowchart.
Okay,
this is a technical solution.
Okay. So it is before the developer.
Correct. Before the development has not yet started.
Okay, yeah, got it.
No.
Thank you.
Right. Any questions, folks?
The technical team, they don't do it straight like.
No. As a BA, you will be the liaison. And if required, once in a while they may start interacting with you. But
so it's an indirect relationship.
Correct.
Subhash, so technical design document is also something like a functional design document, right?
No. Functional requirement document is different. Technical design document is different. As a business analyst, you will not be involved in any of the design activities. You are not responsible for designing the architecture. What goes in the design document, what goes in the, what is the recommendation of technical design, you don't make a call on it. You don't even have to understand it. It's pure, complete technology. But functional functional design document is part of your requirements gathering phase, where you will document the solution for the functionality of the system. Okay, so in the requirements gathering phase, you don't have to worry about them too much because we are going to list out each and everything. We are going to document them anyway. But I wouldn't worry about what goes in a design document, how a design document looks like, because I would never review it or never document it. All my role as a BA in the design phase, in the technical design phase, is to help them understand the requirements and clarify all the requirement related questions. That's all I'm going to do.
Okay.
Any more questions, folks?
So we can be giving them what kind of document because they won't be understanding the FRD or BRD system.
Who won't be understanding the BRD or FRD?
Technical guys.
Why not?
They will be.
Why not? It's the business requirements, functional requirements are written for everybody. Yeah. It's written in English. Assuming that they can understand English, they should be able to understand BRD, FRD also. All right, folks. If you don't have any questions, then I think I'm done for the day today. But I think most of you have joined the class today for the first time, and probably are not familiar with our blog. So I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you the training blog that we offer to our students quickly for the next. I'm going to give you an overview of the training blog. Just give me one quick second. But in the meantime, while I try to open up this blog and show it to you, if you have any questions, you're free to ask. So what document?
Hey Subhash, this is Keith. Can you please send me the link to that SharePoint or to the blog where the documents are stored? You could send it to my email address, please.
This blog, you will get the blog access after registration.
Okay.
But I will show you. I'm going to give you a quick overview of how the blog looks like.
Subhash, I have a question, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
What are the ERP systems we're going to be using? Like, are we using any of them or no?
No. Why you won't be working on or using any of the ERP system. Always remember, there is no technology involved here. As a business analyst, you will always be interacting with the business, documenting requirements. And I would say 90% of the time as a BA, you will be working on MS Word or Excel.
Okay.
Most of the time.
Who fills out the technical design document?
Sorry, come again?
Who fills out the technical design document?
I'm sorry, what did you say? Come again? I apologize. I'm not able to hear.
Okay, I'm saying who fills out the technical design document? Is it the BA's job or technical team?
The technical architects are responsible for designing the technical architecture. A business analyst will not be involved in that at all.
Okay.
All right, so let me quickly share the blog with you guys. So if you see this, links, so we have so many portals or blogs that we have created. So every month we have batches, training batches, and every month we create this blog for every time that we start this batch. So let me go ahead and show you one of the recent most blogs that we created. I had a recent batch. Let me show you the November. said, in order to get access to this blog, you have to register in order to get access. Once you get access to this blog, there are so many things that you could do. This is our home page. And again, as this is a Google blog, I would need your Gmail, a Google account, in order to give you access. So you have to give me your Google Gmail ID, in order to get access to this. So as soon as I add you, you will get a link saying that we have added you or added to a blog. All you have to do is just click the link and use your Google user ID password to sign in, and you should be able to access this. Right now, here the home page. This is one of my demo videos which is also on YouTube. I'll show you a couple of quick important things. Materials. See, there's a lot of information here. Real-time projects, the SDLC concepts, testing concepts, interview question and answers. A lot of information here. You can actually directly download all this information into your desktop. It's a permanent download onto your desktop. Yeah.
I'm not access to this blog, and I'm looking at the resume, and then once you click on view and stuff, it doesn't let you even see it.
It's not loading properly. It could be some technical issue. We'll fix it. But you should be able to, download everything here that is being shown. Right? Assignments. If you see here, assignments is basically a section where, all the students post their assignments. So for every class, every Sunday before we leave, I, give you some assignments, and the assignment that I give you will be posted on the blog. So what I'm going to do is, let us say, today I have to give you an assignment. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to say new post, and, add the title of the post, and, description of the post, and let us say, if I have to attach today's notes, we had a notes in the class today, right? So this is a note. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just say add file and attach the notes and just say save. The moment I save it, you will see that once you land back, you will see your posting displayed on the top. So in this way, a lot of students who have posted their assignments, Nasir, Sharmila, Nidhi, so a lot of students have posted their assignments on the blog here. You can also breeze through the pages, Pooja, Luna. See, I have posted an assignment. Please prepare the BRD and FRD for the process. And they come back and, they post the assignments back. James, Nina. So this is one good way of, interacting with the students. And also, the best part is you can not only post your assignments, but you can also see, what the other students have posted on the blog. You can compare and you can check how things are different from you versus the rest of the team. Right? And first thing, as soon as you get access to the blog, you have to go click this More Actions spinning wheel on the top and select Subscribe to Site Changes. All right. Here I have already subscribed. That's the reason it says unsubscribe. But you will see an option called as Subscribe to Site Changes. As soon as you click this Subscribe to Site Changes, anybody posts anything on this blog, you will get an email notification. So you don't have to keep looking, logging back and see if somebody posted an assignment or if I posted an assignment, So everything will be automatically notified. Most important part, the videos. Every class is recorded, as I said, right? And all the classes will be posted on the blog directly. You see this, right? The November batch, pretty much all the videos have been It looks like there's an issue with this video. Pretty much all the videos have been posted. Right? In order to access the videos, all you have to do is make sure that you have the latest, of whatever browser you're using. Chrome always works, and I think even if you have a Mac or anything, it should still be working. All you have to do is just click the play, and it starts loading. And you should be able to hear, pretty much the audio should be clear, and also the document, whatever, or when you're trying to, pretty much should be clear. You can go full screen, and you should be able to see everything that has been posted. Okay. All right. So pretty much this is our training log, and we see this whole. And again, let us say I post a video on Monday. The moment you subscribe to Site Changes, you will get an email saying that, okay, there was a video posted. So you don't have to, keep logging in and checking back again and again. Normally, as we already know, the classes are on Saturdays and Sundays, and we post these videos by Tuesday noon, because it takes time for us to, because all these videos are processed on WebEx. We get these video recordings, we have to convert them into the, playable format for you, and we have to upload this. It takes, time for us to do it. So by Tuesday noon, we can, we usually try to publish all the videos over the weekend. Okay. And
how long is this blog available?
This blog is available for 6 months. And also, I think once you register with us, you will have a lifetime access to our training. If you want to come back and if you want to revisit our training, if you want to, refresh some of the topics. Like I always have students coming back. They go work in the project, they want to revise a concept. They always come back and they attend. There is no second time registration fees or anything. Just one time, and you will have unlimited access. And as you see, we have batches every month. All you have to do is just figure out when is the next batch, and or if there is a topic that you want to know, you can always come back and ask them. Okay. And if you want my contact information, I'm not sure how many of you have my contact info, but yeah.
Hey Subhash, this is Keith. So am I calling you up offline after this class, right?
Yeah, you can call me after this class. Please call me around 12:45.
Understandable. Or is it possible you could call me? Do you have my phone number?
Can you
call me? Do you want me to give you my phone number on the chat?
Yes, please.
I think I sent it to you. You have it on the chat.
All right. So I think there are a lot of people on the online as well. If you are local to New York, New Jersey, you're always welcome. You can come down, attend our class in person as well. I am based in Edison, New Jersey, and I'm in the classroom right now. I have around 5 to 6 students who are also in the class, physically attending this session. But if you're local here, you're always welcome. You can stop by and you can attend our classes in person as well. So you have both the options.
Thank you, Subhash. I am dropping the call. Thank you.
All right.
And I'll talk to you later, okay?
All right, folks. So let's touch base again tomorrow, and we will continue our discussion. So till then, thank you very much. You have a wonderful day. Bye.
Okay, thanks.